This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry. Welcome back to Mental Health Matters with Viking Psychiatry. And today we're going to talk about a subject that many people may be facing, which is the holidays are in a couple of days and loneliness may be looming. And Sean Goddard, who is the owner of Viking Psychiatry, is here to discuss more. Hello, Sean.
Hello, it's so good to see you again.
You too. Happy holidays. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Same to you. That orange is really calling to me with Thanksgiving.
I'm ready. I'm ready to eat.
Turkey.
Yes.
You have my name.
All the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, right now is a joyous, season and occasion. People get together with their families. They have Friendsgiving and all of those things. But then there are so many people who are experience loneliness during this time. I mean, either they have lost a loved one, they're away from their family, and the weather's changing, so seasonal depression comes in too. So let's talk about that. Why do you feel that right now impacts people so much as opposed to any other time of the year?
Yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit of the perfect storm, right? You highlighted on the fact that we go into the fall months, right? And the days get shorter. And man, I wish I could just get rid of daylight savings sometimes,
Me too.
right? Besides having to switch the clock back and forth, which is annoying, you see that difference in the sunlight that people are getting throughout the day. And so that really plays a big effect on us, more than most people acknowledge or bring to bear. And then holidays are supposed to be a time of cheer, right? Yeah. But when we talk about holidays, we often bring up memories, right? Or think about memories. And so for many people, it can be the realization that their family member is no longer with them and they're not going to be able to experience that holiday, or a loved one or a spouse or somebody that is no longer present in their life. And so when you have this going on, there tends to be a lot more stress during the holidays, right? We're coming up towards the end of the year. We're at holidays. Do I buy gifts? How much money do I spend? I have bills. I got to pay my bills, right? The boss wants extra hours because we're at the end of the year and we need to, right? And there's just so much that accumulates and pushes down on folks. And I've talked before that, often we spend too much time living life that we forget to live. And that really pushes in during the holidays. And so when you kind of tie all those things together, it can really put somebody in a state sometimes quickly where they don't even realize it, where they went from going through life and going through the motions, living, right, and then suddenly not feeling as good as they did even weeks or a month ago.
That is so true. And like you said, the stress of money, and then also just like the end of the year pressures, right? If you have let's say that you have insurance through your company and it's like, oh, your deductible is going to run out. You have to get all these services, and now you're putting all this money trying to get your teeth fixed or get your eyes checked, and just it's a lot. It's a lot on people across the board. And so have you dealt personally? I know that what I love is when speaking to you, you have a story, like you've experienced a lot of these things, and which makes you more compassionate, I feel, and understanding as a practitioner. So share with me a time that you have dealt with this.
Yeah, so I've talked about before that I largely grew up in the system, right? I was taken away from my biological parents at a young age, adopted at the age of 4.5, lived with that adoptive family for a while, and then ended up going back in the system at the age of 13. And so a majority of my life, I've spent holidays alone. Right? Thanksgivings, Christmases, those types of things. The only people that I celebrated it with were whoever was involved in my life at that time, or people in the group home with me, right? Who not necessarily were close relationships. I think some of the best Thanksgiving and Christmases that I had growing up were actually during my time in the Army, because of the bond and the brotherhood and sisterhood that's created through serving. But holidays for me have always been a lonely time, right? Have always been a time where it brings up realization of the lack of having a mom, or a lack of having a dad, or brothers or sisters, right? And so, I'm blessed that I have two beautiful, amazing kids. My son Dylan is 24. My daughter Isabella is 20, going on 21, going on 50. But they're such amazing kids, and so I'm blessed now to have them in my life. And to have an amazing wife and the family that I acquired through the blending of families. But it still hits home, right, that there's nobody from my side of the family other than my kids at the table. And so acutely and chronically understand how hard holidays can be for people, and it's why it's one area of focus and why I wanted to do an episode about this, right?
Yeah.
Because so many people just assume holidays are joyous, and that's not always the case for everybody.
Right. And so for those who are experiencing that type of loneliness, that type of sadness, depression during this time, what do you recommend that they do?
Yeah, so one of the first things, it's not always about rushing to somebody like us, right?
Yeah.
We can make big changes with little changes, right? And so, for example, one of the things that I talk about with daylight savings and the changes is if you can do it a little bit early morning of rising. One of the things that I like to do is I go out in the morning when the sun is coming up and I sit on my porch with my cup of coffee. So instead of sitting in front of the TV and watching the TV, of course, make sure we're on in time for your show, right?
Right,
But
very important.
going out front, sitting on the porch, drinking a cup of coffee and letting that sun really hit my face first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
That does a lot for the body and a lot for the brain. Taking cold showers in the morning, and you have to work up to that, right? Trust me, I'm a hot water person. After being in the Army, I swore I never was going to take another cold shower. But it actually does a lot for the body in releasing endorphins, norepinephrine, those types of things, and really helping invigorate us throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so you start with lukewarm, right, and then work your way down to tepid, and then eventually cold, and then 30 seconds or 15, whatever you can tolerate, and build that.
Right.
And that actually can do a significant amount for building people up for their day. We can take supplement with vitamin D. There's light therapy where they have them on Amazon now. Just make sure you get a well-reviewed and a good brand where you can sit while you're working and turn it on and have it shining on you 30 minutes at a time, couple times a day. There are multiple things, and exercising.
Yeah.
I have a saying, feet in motion, brain in motion. And when we're moving, we're causing release of endorphins and also something called BDNF, which is like the miracle grow of the brain, and can really help with creating connections and communications in the brain that are starting to kind of fizzle out during those fall and winter months.
Yeah, and really it's about being thankful and grateful, right? So also remembering just the things that we do have. And I think that sometimes those things can be taken for granted and forgotten in the midst of the cloud of everything that's happening in our lives. It's so hard to remember, just like I'm breathing. I woke up today. I have something to eat. I have a roof over my head. I have a community, whether it be at work or, friends that were acquired, or if people do have family, picking up the phone and reaching out and calling and really just staying active and not giving up, right? It's about not giving up.
Absolutely. I think it's harder than ever to be happy in today's society because we have created an environment that really just pushes for the Joneses type thing, right? All the social media, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, right? And on TV and on commercials, you should look this way, your house should be like this, your car should be like this if you don't have this, right? And these pictures posted on Instagram where this couple seems so happy and I don't have that, right? And so we've created this environment where it makes it very hard to internalize and look at the things that you do have, right? And being thankful, because what we don't know is that person who has that really nice car and really nice house could be leveraged to the hilt and pending bankruptcy any day, right? You really have to look at the things that you do have and be able to enjoy those, because that comes back to that whole saying of mine. When you're busy looking at everything else around you and everything else that you want and the things that you're going to try for, that's just living, right? That's not living. That's not enjoying the moment and enjoying what you have in front of you. And it takes a conscious effort. I struggle sometimes to do it right and not to get overwhelmed by the world around us. But it absolutely can make a difference.
It can. Let's say that's just looking and not living, right? They're just scrolling, looking, and not living their lives. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you. So good to see you again.
You too.
Thanks for sharing the message.
Yeah. And we want for you to know that you are not alone. Right now, during the holiday season, this is the time that you can really reflect and think about the things that do bring you joy. Think about the ways that you can seek outreach and just know that there are options and solutions to help with your mental health. And Viking Psychiatry is one of those options. So we will have their website listed below, and I'll see you after the break.
This segment sponsored by Viking Psychiatry.